first, could you just tell me a bit about your role and which hospital you're based in?
Yeah, so I am based at New Cross in Wolverhampton, and I'm an advanced nurse practitioner. So I've been an advanced nurse practitioner now for the past 9 years, having been a neonatal unit nurse for 10 years prior to that. And we basically work as a clinical team towards 4 main pillars of advanced practice, basically. So we are leaders in clinical delivery of care, leadership and management, such things as implementing quality improvement projects, education and research.
Could you give us an idea of how many babies are admitted to your unit per year and how many of those are term babies?
Yeah, so basically our neonatal unit belongs to a kind of wider network. So we belong to the West Midlands Neonatal Operational Delivery Network, and that is like a group of trusts that work to differing capabilities. So we have some trusts that work from a level 1, so very special care, to level 2, which is high dependency, and then New Cross, which falls under a level 3 care remit, so in intensive care. And we generally in Wolverhampton have about 5,000 births a year, with 450 of those approximately admitted to a neonatal unit. So whether that's a premature baby, term baby, any baby that needs level 3 intensive care. And currently approximate numbers are that our term babies account for 4.8% of those admissions. The unit in itself is 26 beds. We have 7 ITU, 7 high dependency and 12 special care.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. So you mentioned you get very much involved in the QI projects, and recently you initiated a pioneering QI project within your delivery room at New Cross. Can you tell me about that project and the goals?
Yeah, so Project First was or is a project that was developed by myself and the team at New Cross to tackle the respiratory element of term admissions, which tended to be our big admission reason. So we were admitting lots of babies for a respiratory need and causing that separation at birth. So First was established. It stands for Family Integrated Respiratory Support Together, and it basically means that the care these babies would have normally gotten on a neonatal unit, we take that care to the family centre. So the care is delivered at the bedside, initially on delivery suite where baby's born. So this is to target babies that have TTN, which is transient tachypnea of the newborn. So babies that have had a delay in clearance of their lung fluid. It's quite a benign self-limiting condition. Some babies get better on their own. Some babies need a little bit of oxygen, a little bit of support. So we're targeting that group of babies and we're delivering this respiratory care at the bedside. So it's essentially a care innovation that keeps families together.
That's brilliant. So this is really a new approach within the UK. Did you receive much pushback from your colleagues?
Hand on heart, 100%. No, I didn't have any pushback, and I think that's why First has worked really well, because at New Cross we've shared the same vision. I felt very supported. You know, it came at a really good time for the ANNP team as well, because we were pulled from the medical rota so that we could establish both nursing and medical. So it really fell at a really nice time for New Cross. So 100% support.
Perfect. So in terms of staffing logistics, you were saying you have an additional member of the ANNP that's allocated to look after this mother and their baby, is that right? Yeah, so we've really pushed forward family integrated care at New Cross, and with the ANNP team being an established team by themselves, so we have now a medical team, a nursing team and an ANNP tier at the moment. It's not fully staffed, but we're almost there, and it just means that for 90% of the time we can deliver First, and we've got a very supportive senior nursing management team, very supportive consultant body. So at the moment, if ANNPs aren't available, then our senior nursing colleagues are being supported, you know, by that group of staff to deliver this care. Everybody sees it as very important, so the support for the staffing has been overwhelming. And in terms of you using Vapotherm high velocity therapy in comparison with things like nasal CPAP, how do you find the therapy is able to alleviate respiratory distress?
So when term babies have a respiratory component. They're already in a very high stress state. They're already working very, very hard. And I mean, I can't suggest any evidence behind this, but in my 20 years experience, they tend to tolerate high flow better than they would do CPAP. And I think that just boils down to it's much more gentler. The approach is gentler. The prongs are much more softer. Especially with the first initiative, these babies are kept skin to skin throughout the care innovation, and they can do that without a bulky device on their face. And it just, the baby's oxygen requirement comes down very quickly. They just tend to be more comfortable on high velocity than they are nasal CPAP.
Perfect. And there's of course a really big drive towards optimal cord management at the moment. Were you able to achieve optimal cord management with the babies who were part of that project?
Yeah, so optimal cord management is gold standard at New Cross. It's delivered for all babies, where it can be obviously a baby that's very, very poorly, then that's a different circumstance. But all term babies will have optimal cord clamping regardless. So the babies that we tend to tackle for first are those babies that tend to develop an oxygen requirement after 10 minutes, after 20 minutes after birth. So that optimal cord clamping they've already had, and obviously the benefits of that are overwhelming. So that's really important.
That's lovely. And have you seen any significant improvement in developmental care as a result of implementing this project?
I think the aspect of developmental care is something that has to be looked at over time. I think the fact that this innovation is delivered skin to skin, there's overwhelming benefits for skin to skin and what that brings to families and what that brings to babies. It enables that bonding process, which is the centre of what developmental care should be. So yeah, it's very developmentally friendly.
Absolutely. So respiratory support is obviously one aspect of the baby's care. Can you tell us about any other potential impacts the new approach has had on things like thermoregulation, hypoglycemia and other clinical outcomes? Have you been looking at those at all?
Yeah, so they were kind of soft sedentary outcomes of the first innovation, because as said previously, any baby that has a respiratory compromise, the way that they deal with that is by using all of the energy that they have. So they will drop their temperature and they will drop their blood glucose, whereas with the first initiative, again, they're kept skin to skin. So they're given their respiratory support early, they are kept warm, so they have their mum's temperature regulation, their mum's breathing control, and they are monitored throughout. So these babies are monitored for blood glucose, their temperature is monitored, they have a blood gas within the first hour and second hour. And, most of the time these babies are also having colostrum, which is perfect. So we're getting quite a bit of colostrum given in the first hour, which again is, gold standard.
That's brilliant. And we can see the benefits to the babies, of course. Now, have you had any feedback from parents at all?
Yeah, so our feedback from parents was overwhelming, and probably the most satisfying part, because the whole goal of first was to prevent separation, and we can all see the trauma that causes. If we've had children ourselves, the thought of having that baby removed at birth is horrendous, and families want the best birth experience that they can get, don't they? So they also, one of the main things that one of the moms said to me was that she felt that she played a part in making a baby better. So they feel more in control, they're really willing to help you. And if we've got a mom that's really poorly, then the dad straight away, I'll do the skin to skin, I'll hold the baby, and it becomes a complete unit. And they get that time that they would have lost if we didn't deliver the care this way. So the feedback is really good.
That's lovely. So there's huge benefit to the baby and to the parents as well. In terms of cost saving, have you looked at how this new approach could benefit the unit or the hospital from a cost saving perspective?
Yeah, so there's a cost in everything that we deliver in the NHS. I think our first and foremost cost really that's not really talked about is the psychological cost. So, that was our main goal. So the psychological and emotional cost of removing a baby at birth. So that's very important to us. And then from a financial cost, we're a level 3 unit. We're there to admit level 3 babies from across the network so that babies are born in the appropriate place and they get the appropriate care. And if we admit a term baby that has high dependency support and we block that cot, then we're unable to accept level 3 cots from outside the network or, again, our own babies. So there's also that cost there as well.
And you've been presenting this project at various local and national conferences, I believe. What's the reaction been from your counterparts from other hospitals?
Really, really supportive. I've had lots of different units contact for information. Again, reducing respiratory term admissions is something that we're all trying to do and that we're all trying to put our own spin on and deliver the appropriate care. But I won their best oral presentation at the Neonatal Nursing Association conference, and that was very well received, really good feedback. And again, post presentation at Vapotherm, and that won best poster. So it's a hot topic at the moment, trying to reduce term admissions.
That's really good.
Yeah, very good.
And do you feel there could be a wider long-term impact on clinical guidelines in the future if this project is rolled out to other hospitals at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a project that we're all trying to do. It's very easily delivered. We're not revolutionising high flow. We've used high flow for years, haven't we, on these babies? It's something we're very used to. It's just using it in a different way and for a different reason. So it's still delivering that same care, which I think a lot of units could adapt and move forward with.
And what advice might you give to other hospitals who are considering implementing this approach or running their own QI project?
I would say the most important thing is to start with a shared vision, because you need a team of supporters behind you for this. And I think that's why First has worked really well at Wolverhampton, because I had 100% of my senior leadership and nursing colleagues from the start. And they really wanted it to work, which helps. I think you need really good communication from the start. And I think if you keep the family at the centre of everything that you do, then everything else falls in place.
That's really, really interesting. And one thing we haven't really talked about in a lot of detail is in terms of protocols, in terms of flow rates. I understand you've got a very clear protocol to monitor the baby throughout that journey. And if they do require admitting at any point, of course, you would follow them on the journey to the neonatal unit. Can you give us a bit of an overview as to what flow rates you might start on with these babies?
Yeah, so we have a very strict guideline that has been developed with our consultant body. So this process is not delivered without the support of a consultant clinician behind us. So our flow rates that we generally start on, so our admission criteria to start with is more than 37 weeks. So these are term babies. They have to be in equal to or less than 50%. And we start them on 8 litres of high flow, and we start them in, obviously the oxygen titrate to what they need. There are lots of safety outlets there, so if at any point we think that the baby deteriorates, if the oxygen increases, if the oxygen doesn't improve, with TTN babies tend to get better quite quickly. So in experience, if you think that this is not going the way it should be, there are lots of safety nets and advice that you can take, and baby will be admitted to the neonatal unit. So it's a work in progress. You work through how the baby responds with support from our senior clinicians.
That's really helpful, and I think that's really key for other hospitals to be aware of. This is not something that's been implemented without a lot of consideration, lots of clear protocols in place, so that every step of the way there is an opportunity for the baby to follow the normal care pathway. But obviously our goal is avoiding, or your goal is avoiding, admission of the baby. And it sounds like overall it's been very, very successful in achieving that goal. So really good work.
Yeah, and I think, thank you. And I think, we won't always avoid admission. Obviously, we have some babies that will not have TTN, where we're surmising that they do at the time. They have an oxygen requirement, and generally we know that TTN, is is a condition that lots of these babies have. Some of these babies don't have TTN, they will have a mixed element of RDS and might need to go on to NICU as birth. But the feedback that we've had from that is that, you know, within that first hour, they've still had that bonding time. It's given the family time to accept that their baby's not very well and that we need to separate for a short amount of time. So it's helped with preparing families for that and just giving them that little bit of time, that normality that they wouldn't normally have had at the start. So positive outcome overall.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Shelley.
Can I just ask, Shelley, Robin mentioned earlier, this is quite an innovative approach in the UK. What was your moment that made you think, I'd like to try this, or for the QI project? How did you come to the realisation that's what you wanted to tackle, if you like?
Yeah, so obviously reducing term admissions is a national goal that was set for all units to reduce. And the respiratory element of ATTAIN, so avoiding term admissions into neonatal units, was the real tricky one, because how do we deliver that support? How do we not admit a baby that needs respiratory support? And, you know, we'd be attending deliveries, and we know that these babies need a little bit of support for a short amount of time, most of the time. So we would stand there and, you know, give a little bit of PEEP, and hopefully that baby would transition and not need oxygen anymore. But at that moment, I looked over to a mum and I thought, I've still separated this family. So I'm trying to do my best for the baby, but the separation still occurred. And what I wanted to do was give the care that we give on the neonatal unit right there on mum's chest. And it was at that moment I thought, this is possible. You know, outreach care in the NHS is huge. There's overwhelming evidence to deliver outreach care. So why should neonatal care be any different? That's where it started.
Thank you, Shelley. That was very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing those experiences with us.
You're welcome.